Let me tell you something, people. Let me tell you something. Ed Lundersen is mad. Ed Lundersen is mad as boiled cabbage and 4 hard-boiled eggs left in the freezer for 2 days. Ed Lundersen is angry. This country is going down the tubes. Down the tubes this country's going. Ever since Trump got deposed, they stole the election from him. Let me tell you something. Ed Lundersen is angry. He's angry. And you don't want to see Ed Lundersen angry. I mean, it's Joe Biden with the woolly bully, and now the country's going down the tubes. Guys, I went to the supermarket. I tried to get myself an ice cream sandwich. Don't have it. The sellers don't sell it anymore. They don't make it. Let's keep it about the family. But let me tell you something. You know, if I can't go to the market and get myself an ice cream sandwich, what is this world going to? What is this coming to? I mean, you've got Lundersen discombobulated right now. Lundersen is on fire. I really needed a nice, Neapolitan ice cream sandwich to cool me down. But they don't have it in stock. They don't know when it's going to be restocked. I'm tired of going into the market and they don't have it in stock. Why? You're making Lundersen cry. You're making Lundersen really sad. I think I have to go and try. Okay, gang, okay. Lunderman had to calm down, take 5 minutes in the dark corner, get a cool drink and cry. And then he was thinking about all our pipeline shortages that are happening all of a sudden. And then Lunderman had heard that someone had reported that New York City was dead, and New York City's dead forever. Well, let me tell you folks something. There have been predictions about New York City being dead since the Revolutionary War. If the city was founded in 1664 and the Revolutionary War was in 1776, then people would say, why, that New York City is sure going to be doomed when the Redcoats get to it. They're going to destroy the city. But it didn't happen. Oh, yes, some parts of the city were firebombed and destroyed, but they rebuilt. So, once again, the War of 1812. Oh, that New York City is going to be destroyed. But the city wasn't destroyed. It wasn't destroyed at all. Now let me tell you, we have the Civil War. Why, New York City would have been a perfect target for the South to come and pillage if they could get some anarchists up here and do it, but they didn't. Then we have, We have the World War I, 1914 and 1918. Even before that, we have the unification of the city in 1898. We have the Spanish flu from 1918. There was an event in 1911, which I can't remember. But then we have World War II. Oh, if those Germans arrive on the east coast of the United States, New York City is doomed. New York City will be destroyed. But it didn't happen. Then after World War II, you had the Korean War. Why, if those Soviets launched that nuclear missile, New York City will be destroyed. But it didn't happen. Then you had the entire Cold War for 50 years. Oh, we've got our tactical nuclear missiles aimed at New York City, expected to be destroyed. You people should leave. Whoa. That didn't happen. Now let me tell you, we had the terrible terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001, 20 years ago this year. Oh, New York City's doomed. It will never recover. They were wrong. Wrong! Then we had the economic collapse of 2007, 2008. New York City will be doomed. Companies were going bankrupt. People were losing their jobs. Bear Stearns, no more. Lehman Brothers, no more. And they were wrong. They were wrong. Then we had the hurricane of 2012, Hurricane Sandy. It attacked the East Coast like a storm, which is what it was. It was a stormy affair. Oh, New York City will never recover from that global warming, greenhouse effect, and everything. But they were wrong. They were wrong. So now, 9 years later, as we're suffering the pandemic of COVID-19 coronavirus, 200,000 people have left New York City. It will never recover. New York City is now dead. And as the past indicators have proven, they were wrong. And they shall be wrong. What you noticed when those 250,000 people left New York City, what you notice is that those people, in fact, had enough cash on hand to go to another community and buy a house there to ride out the pandemic in ease. And if you actually examine all of the real estate surveys, what you're going to find is what I say is true. That's exactly what happened. People had big duffel bags full of money. They had suitcases full of cash. They had access to the preferred client list at their bank, and they were able to draw a cashier's check just alone. Right? These people, what they were able to do was to go to these locations and buy a house that they thought would be a good investment and a place that they could use to weather the pandemic. They actually have no interest in staying there long term. They figured, hey, I'll buy this house here, $200,000, $300,000, $900,000, $1 million, and as a piece of real estate, it will appreciate in value while I'll wait out the storm so I can go back to my fancy, posh apartment in New York City. What makes me believe this and what makes you believe this is the fact. Now listen, Lunderman would not steer you wrong. Lunderman is telling you that when people show up to buy your house with a checkbook, not even willing to do or wanting to do an inspection on the property, not even wanting to have the property appraised or assessed, they just want to buy the property. They plan on living in the property, and then in a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, they're going to sell it at an advantageous premium to them. Will this happen? Ooh, I don't think so. But Lunderman could be wrong. But past indicators have proven Lunderman to be correct. Let me tell you why. The real estate bubble of 2007-2008 was primarily based on speculation. Speculation. That cool, refreshing drink. It was based on speculation. And speculative behavior had people whose income did not match their desires, owning homes, expecting further explosive gains in those homes, at which they could sell those homes and they could record a profit in those homes. It also required extending money to people who were not credit qualified to buy those homes and not even bothering to inquire about their income because you're relying on those people to fix those homes and then sell those homes. It was a perpetual Ponzi scheme. So is that what is happening now? Ooh, let's take a breath. Let's take a deep breath. Let's hold it. Let's exhale. And let's examine. Of course it's going to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, of course it is. When you bought a house with no inspection, no assessment, no appraisal, you just walked up to the owner and paid cash for a house that no one's value can substantiate, and you expect to make your money back and at least a 40% premium over what you paid. Ooh. Can we say the magic word of the day? Speculation. Speculation. That cool, refreshing drink. Yes. Expect in 2023, I'm going to say the first quarter, expect to be hit with a numerous amount of foreclosures and bankruptcies from homes that people had bought during the pandemic of 2020 that they can't sell. Or if they could sell it, they can't get anywhere near what they paid for it, plus what they invested in it, plus what they think they should be able to get for that house. Because that will be the effect of buying a house to which you didn't do an inspection, an appraisal, an assessment. But will people come back to New York City? Of course they will. Of course they will. Most of the city's growth has happened since 1980. This is important to consider. Because if urban blight was in effect in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the early 90s with the crack, the crack and the street violence and the crime from the 90s, and people were saying, well, New York City should just rotten hell, New York City. But then, at the end of that decade, the 90s, New York City started to rebound. And then you had disaster of September 11th. It slowed a bit. By the end of that decade, the first decade in the 2000s, New York City had rebounded. Then you had a hurricane in 2012, and it slowed the city down briefly, but then it still rebounded until last year, 2020. So, will people come back to New York City? Of course they will. Of course they will. Will they hold on to their asset outside of the city? Who knows? Who knows? But they'll definitely come back. They will definitely come back to New York City after a time or two. So, Ed Lundersen offered a tirade for the lack of ice cream cones in the market. Lundersen doesn't have a problem with being emotional. I gotta control yourself, Lundersen. Get back in touch.